Tea and Conversation Live. Welcome to Tea and Conversation Live this evening. I want everyone to go ahead on and share the video, the streaming, the live. We have a special guest on this evening. And I want to say for all of the people that was on with us last week, I want to say thank you so much. So many people jumped on. We had so many comments. And I just thank you. I think we need more conversations. We need more involvement in our community. Definitely more involvement with our kids, our community, school. It's so important. The more I look at it, there's no one fix. There's so many things that we need to do as a community to make sure that we have the best interests of our children. I have with me, again, I said, a special guest, Karen Perez. Karen and I have known each other since high school. We both went to King High School together. And I worked with her when I was a floor nurse at the hospital, when I would have to call one of the social workers in the community to help with placement of patients. So I have a long history of being and knowing Karen Perez. And she has been an amazing school board member. She is our school board chair, District 6. And we're going to bring Karen right on in, and we're gonna chit chat a little bit. And well, hey girl.
Hey, you.
Hey, see you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you for having me on tonight. And
Absolutely.
hello, Tampa Bay community.
Yeah, thank you so much for jumping on with me this evening. We had such a great conversation on last week. And we have to keep having conversations. We have to keep having conversations until we can get things rolling along. I know you and I mentioned before I brought you on, you and I went to King High School way back in the 78, 79, 80, 81. And it was amazing during that time. And I talk about it all the time of things that we did as children, of what other children did. I remember so many things that went on at King High School, but we were able to get through and go on to be successful people in our community. So Karen is our school board chair, District 6. And first of all, I want to say, Karen, thank you for coming on, and tell us exactly what is a school board chair. What is your responsibility as a school board chair? Because we don't want to take anything for granted that people do not know exactly what that is.
It's to help facilitate the agenda for the meetings, to really be upfront, with the superintendent, basically partner with the superintendent in all things Hillsborough County Schools. But also to have a main point, when somebody calls the district or anything like that, to be able to have somebody, as a focal point there, for the school board. It's a big responsibility. I got to say that, but it's nothing that I'm sitting in the chair position, but it's nothing that I haven't. I run all the meetings for a year, but it's the responsibility piece is not anything different than what I have done for the community, because a lot of things the community has always said, call member Perez, she'll get it done. And that's what the board chair is supposed to be doing anyway. It's helping to facilitate that movement within the community for the parents and for the students, and making that smooth transition between the problem and getting that problem solving to happen.
Well, I have a few questions for you that I have, and actually a few of them that the community helped me put together. And the first one is, undeserving and unrepresented communities consistently are affected by school closures, gentrification, and neighborhood transformation. How does this impact the overall impact of the mental health of the community, students, and their families?
So, as a mental health provider, as a mental health professional, and as a certified traumatologist, our communities, what I have noticed, and the voice that I always ring, especially on the school board, is that when the underserved and underrepresented are the ones that are always attacked. And by attacked, I mean they're the ones who always end up getting their schools closed. They're the ones who always end up with no resources. They're the ones who always end up with no teachers who want to go to their schools. Because as we all know, a lot of the underserved, underrepresented schools have the majority substitutes teaching our children. And then they're underutilized. So what that means is that a lot of the parents end up choosing, because they don't have teachers in the schools, they end up choosing to send their children to charter schools to get those supports in place. So when we're looking at that issue, we realize, Candy, that I don't know why I feel like I'm getting a feedback, but we realize that communities suffer when our children are not being provided what they need in the realm of education. But not just our communities, because what happens, but not just our students, excuse me, our communities, because what happens is, I think this is something set up by society, but they use our children in a fashion to kind of break up our communities. So if you have children going to a school that's underutilized, parents are going to go try to find a school that's going to really support their children. So they're going to move, right? And normally, Candy, let's be honest. When we were going to school, we knew each other. Our communities were our foundation. So when you start breaking that foundation, there's no unity within our communities. That foundation starts fracturing. That unity starts severing, and then we are like spread out. That our communication starts deteriorating. So when you don't know what I need and I don't know what you need, society wins, because we no longer are communicating and we're no longer are supporting each other on a daily basis. Now, I may see you, Candy, 2 months from now, but what has happened between those 2 months, I'll forget. News will be old and things will happen in between. But our communities in the past, we used to get news from the grocery store, from the grocer, from the corner deli, from church, and from our children going to school. But I honestly feel that when we sever that education for our children, we're also severing the information train, if I could use that term, for our communities, and that ability for our communities to get stronger and more unified.
So do you think that's something that That makes me sad hearing that. Do you think that we can ever get back to any of that?
No, I'm going to say if we unitedly stick together, we can. But right now, it's working. It's working in every lot. I mean, look at Chicago. Look at how many schools are closing in Chicago. Look at how many schools are closing in Portland. Look at how many schools are closing in New York City. But you don't hear anywhere where they're closing schools in predominantly white neighborhoods. That is unheard of.
Mm, yeah.
But, you know, it's always going to be the attack on the underserved. And I refuse to say minority any longer because we are not the minority. We are no longer the minority. We are now the underserved, underrepresented class in
Mhm.
society. Um, and there's a lot of also white poor that are in this bunch as well. So,
Mhm.
for me, the trauma that we've been subjected to, um, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, I think, um, through no fault of the churches in our neighborhoods, but through society, because they've moved our people, the Black, Latino, they have moved them, they've scattered them so far that they can't even get to the churches that they used to attend.
Mhm.
They on Sunday morning, how many buses do you know run anymore?
Yeah.
And our families need to be able to get to the churches. Okay, so they're scattered everywhere, and now they have to go find houses of faith that they could go and worship in. But when they're pushed out so far out of the urban areas, out into places that even walking 2 miles they won't see a bus. It's just ridiculous, and I believe this really has an impact on our mental health, on the mental health of our families, and as a whole, on the mental health of our communities.
Mm. With that being said, all of that being said, Karen, we had a broad discussion um, last week, and it was on one of my posts. And I decided I wouldn't go back and forth with people. I just let them post and share. And the majority of the African American community was saying it starts with parents. But then I had another post saying the same thing. And a couple of my white friends jumped on board with the conversation and said that, we can't throw our children away. We have to do all we can for our children. And one of the ladies, she said that mental health is real and we're all struggling and it's
Yeah.
stressful. It's getting more and more stressful. So normally when I hear us as a people say that it always starts at home, I don't always believe that because I know that there's so many other factors, there's so many other layers that are in there that has children distracted, they're angry, there's no stability when they do go to school. If they have substitutes most of the year, I know when we had a substitute at King High School or at Franklin Junior High School, or any school, we didn't have a sub for months unless our
Yeah.
teacher was out with a pregnancy.
Mhm.
So What's your thought when you hear um, it starts at home? We know parents have some responsibility. They have responsibility, but then they go to school and there's other issues that are going on when they get there, truth be told.
Mhm. So, you know, I went to Hillsborough County Schools, and we had, I gotta say this, to really toot the horn for King High School, we really had a great experience at King High School. I gotta say that for myself, for the students I saw walk with me at graduation. There was some bumps along the way, but we turned out to be amazing human beings, here, because we had some amazing human beings in front of us. Okay. Um, and so I'm not going um, to talk about the fact that it's, you know, um, the parents, parents were working when we were growing up. Parents were doing what they needed to do. Some of our parents had two jobs, some fathers had two jobs, mom had one. They come home, do what they needed to do. And some parents were illiterate. Some parents were illiterate that raised us. My mom only had a third grade um, schooling history, third grade. Um, so, but I think it's the experience right now that our children are getting between home and school. The bullying is so high right now at school, but there's a lot of turn my head, I didn't see anything
Mm.
experience that a lot of our children are experiencing. So this is what, and I see Paul Whaley, what he's saying is true. What happens is, and I've seen it as a school board member, because the discipline rates are so high, I'm not wrapping my head around what's going on. They're so high for our Black and Latino students, and for our students, their counterparts. I know white kids cuss. I know white kids smoke. I know white kids fight. I know that they do. I know that they do. I'm a school board member. I know they do. But what happens is, this is the experience. Little white Johnny goes to school. He has a fight. Parents come in, and the principal says, "Oh, Johnny's just having a bad day.
Bad
Let
day.
me let me give you as parents some resources to help little Johnny have a better day."
A better day for Johnny.
Now, mhm, now little Black or Latino Johnny comes in, has a bad day, and parents come in, and the first thing that is said is, little Johnny had a bad day, he's going to get suspended 5 days. And if he comes back and has another bad day, he'll get 10 days. They're treated very different, will always be treated very differently. And, I have an issue with this because I see it. I've been a board member elect for 6 years now, and
Yes, yes.
it just has not changed. We have a discipline workshop coming up. Um, I think it's November 12th. I've been asking for this workshop. I want the community to know since January. Since January. And I've gotten pushback from the other board members. Yes.
And so is that something that the community can help with?
Well, I'm kind of glad. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of glad that the pushback was there, because the numbers grew exponentially while the pushback was going on. So now there can be no denial about the amount of students that were suspended in the 23-24 school year. And as a matter of
Wow.
fact, right now, in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of school, there's been more suspensions. So, but those children are in the underserved, underrepresented communities, not, in the communities that represent affluenza. So, I'm having an issue with this. I'm just having a major issue with what this is looking like for our children and their education and their mental well-being.
Karen, I have to say, thank you for having I think she's going to jump back on, but I just wanted to say thank her for having a concern for this. Um, Thank you for having a concern for this. Um, Mental health is real, and our children, our community, our families are having issues. And absolutely, Mona, in reference to seeing little Johnny, that was a perfect example. And I know that goes on in school. I know how things went with my son when he was in school. And after going so many times to talk with uh, the front office people or the principal, assistant principal, and one of them, when I was at, he was at Van Buren, I had a relationship with her and her mama, and still got a lot of pushback and resulted in suspension and other things that was going on. And our children need our help. We cannot throw our children away, and we cannot continue to talk bad about um, our parents. We've always had single mothers. We had single mothers when I was in school. We had single mothers when my mother was in school. We've had mothers that are uh, young mothers when my mother was young, when my grandmother was young. So that young mother, we've always had young mothers. But I wanted to say thank you, Karen, for recognizing what's going on with our children and speaking out and speaking up for our children. I just don't know how you rest well without speaking up and wanting to uh, want better for our kids in school, want better for our children that will one day be an adult just like you and I, and wanting them to have had a good experience. I have another question I wanted to, well, Mona has something on the board. She says, can you see that, Karen?
Yes. So what's going on is also that the principals are getting pressured. They're getting pressured. I see what you're saying about, white principals, but why little Johnny gets that from a black principal. It's because they're getting pressured, to show the numbers. They're getting pressured to show that they're the discipline. They're getting pressured for, to stop the fighting. They're getting pressured to, but, and then I've got to tell you, some of these white parents pull a lot of these purse strings. They'll come and they'll claim that they're going to sue or they're going to do this, and but black parents don't. Black parents try to keep the peace. They do, and and I appreciate that as a board member. But sometimes we have to ruffle feathers. We have to, go out there and show our children that we're fighting for them. You know, um, Yeah.
That's better.
Making a little meditation, encouraging, be good today. Yeah. Um, yeah. There's one thing that I always say, Candy, to a lot of folks that we've been taught. I know as a Latina, and I know that a lot of folks. I know I'm guilty of it too. As a mom, telling my kids, "Hey, keep the peace." If somebody tries to argue with you, just yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I know those were the first two words my kids really learn how to say, yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Um, you know, but sometimes they're having damage done to them, and you know we're guilty of allowing damage being done to our children when we ask them to be quiet, sit back, sit down, sit back, and shut up. And that's not good for our kids either. Because our children have a breaking point as well. And when they're mentally, it's funny, Candy. I was telling someone the other day, as a mental health provider, I I work on helping my clients find their voice, and our children today are finding their voice. And when, like somebody was asking about Johnny, little black Johnny or Latino Johnny find their voice, people say they're being disrespectful. But little white Johnny will say, "Man, I don't care about this. Oh, he's
Yeah.
just expressing himself,"
Yes,
right?
I hear it all the time. And he's so rambunctious.
Yes,
All
yes,
of it.
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, we have to teach our children how to express themselves, give them the words to express themselves. Um, Help them, do a little bit of, like, at home. If this happens, I can't think of the word right now, Candy. Um, when you go back and forth and you do a little bit of dialogue. If somebody says this, let's see what you would say, or train them how to
Role play.
role playing. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, role playing at home to help them find their words, help them find their voice. um, you know but we have to nurture our children's mental wellness, um, because things are getting very serious out there. Right now, mental health is the top tier conversation around the world, not just nationally, but around the world. And so, we have to start having these conversations at home. And I get that culturally, this is not, people are not used to this, but we've got to get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. I have another question for you, Karen. Let me just pull it
Mhm.
up. I saved it here on my phone. Question number 2. How does the quality of health care
Oh,
services differ in the underserved communities? And just that, how is that different in different communities, those mental health services? And is mental health services offered in school?
so in school they are, but Candy, little Candy comes to my office and she needs mental health services. I'm going to give you a consult, or a referral, and take this to mom, Candy, and have her go see a community agency and let them give you some mental health services. I don't know if folks remember back in 2019 when me and DeSantis had a public jousting, but that was the best conversation I ever had with DeSantis in my life. So
What was
It was a
what was that,
it
Karen?
was
What
a
was that
public.
conversation?
It was me and DeSantis had a public jousting. So he was at one of our schools talking about mental health dollars and how he's giving it to the communities, it to community
Mm,
agencies. And I said, that's great that you're giving it to the agencies, but we need the money in the schools. Our kids are in schools the majority of the time. And that that conversation or that argument or that fight went viral. Because for me, if if parents can't get to the agencies, then the referral is for naught. You
mm.
know, you're going to give me a referral to give my parents who are working two jobs, who can't don't have a car. I will never get those services. But if you give the money to a counselor in a school and she could see me because I'm there all day long, then I'm going to get some help. Second, there's a lot of I think I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but there's a lot of insurance companies who don't provide mental health supports. They only provide the supports for physical wellness, and a lot of people don't realize that. So, in order to get mental health support, you have to pay out of pocket. Last year alone, I have a private practice, and last year alone, I provided over $250,000 in free counseling. My accountant told me I was going to go broke. I'm not running a free clinic, but it's for people who really needed it. You know,
Yeah.
there's people out there who really need the mental health supports and counseling. But insurance companies are realizing that these supports, they'll come up and they'll um, give you 3 sessions. But the first session is getting to know the therapist and you're introducing yourself. The second one is really getting into what you need, and the third one is, okay, we're wrapping it up, you take care. That doesn't do anything for anyone.
Yeah.
And and a lot of our children are on Medicaid or on the state, and a lot of kids this year were dropped. They were dropped off of that insurance. So, um, it is it's horrible. It's horrible what the state of Florida is doing to our children and our families when it comes to their mental wellness.
Wow. I tell you, you are really uh, enlightening me this evening, Karen. We're on this evening with Karen Perez. She's our school board chair, District 6, and she's been a
Six.
school board member for 6 years now. If you have any comments that you would like to make, you're welcome to put it in the chat and we will get to it, and we will have maybe one or two call-ins. I have one more question for you, Karen. How
Okay.
does the stability of our children's education system affect their mental health as the springboard from where they will learn how to build friendships and deal with their problems and personal values, just the whole gamut?
Yeah.
How does all that in little children's minds?
Well, I'm going to take me and you as an example. Look at the stability that we've had 43 years. And folks, I'm not going to tell you how old we are. So, but 43 years of stability. And I look back at our classmates. Our classmates are doing amazing. I mean, look at all the leaders that came out of our graduating class. The leaders that our that our school produced, that our graduating class produced. And our class, our graduating class gets together frequently, not once every 10 years, not once every 15 years, not once every 20 years. We get together about what, every 3 or 4 months, the whole graduating class, you know, we get together with the year before and the year after, right? The 80, 81, and 82. So we form an alliance that we have like friends for life. And, and they hold us accountable. They're like, okay, Karen, what are you doing? Hey, Candy, what are you doing? How can we help you? How can we help each other? It's just, it speaks to who we are as individuals, who we are as a group, because we came out of school with almost like friends for life, like almost like a family.
Yeah.
Right? But if we keep moving these kids, if we keep rotating their lives, if we undermine their education, they're not going to turn out like us. These children are not going to, we didn't go to school wondering if we were going to be in the same school next year. We didn't go to school wondering if we were going to have a different teacher tomorrow. We didn't go to school, like you mentioned in the beginning of this program, that having a substitute teacher all year long. That wasn't our life, Candy. That's not who we were. And that's not what our educational foundation and our springboard led us into our life to be. We learned how to be advocates. We learned how to speak for others and ourselves. And we learned how to be strong, I'm going to say the strong women, because of the educational foundation that we received. And I shudder to imagine what our children's educational foundation is going to look like, because what I'm hearing is half the teachers are not engaged. Half the teachers are not, that they sit on a computer and they tell the kids, oh, just finish the work. And I'm hoping that that's not what's happening, but I'm hearing that far too many times.
Karen, even when you say that, I often mention Miss Linda Haynes at King High School. Her first year from University of South Florida was at King High School. Her first year teaching. And I think she retired from there after 35 plus years. And she was a first year teacher.
Yeah.
And, I hear a lot of people say, well, this is their first year, their first year teachers. I'm like, well, I had a first year teacher. And we loved her because she cared for us. Mm-hmm. And she cared for us so much that she cares to the point that she shares on my Facebook page. She writes comments on my Facebook page, as well as Kamitra Edward. She met with us a couple in town. So, I just hear this, these first year teachers. We've always had first year teachers.
Mm-hmm. And what was funny, I tell this experience all the time. Remember, Washington was one of my teachers, and we ran against each other. He was my coach and my driver's ed teacher. And I tell him all the time, hey, I turned out to be a wonderful driver, and if I ever get a ticket, I'm going to have the police officer call you, but, we had this I can't even explain. And I came here, let me say this to the audience. I came here from New York, and was put into King High School. But I was surrounded by alumni there in King High School that were amazing to me. The students, the teachers, even the principal, and the principal said, it was just incredible. Um, just, and I wish the students today, I know there's some schools that the students get that. I know there's some schools that the kids, when they're walking, across the aisle crying, boohoo tears because they love the principal. But there's some schools that are missing that mark. Um, and the students are just, really not getting that. Not getting that, Candy.
Wow. I know we have been having lots of discussions, Karen, and I don't know how we can turn it around. And I know you
Well,
did say you don't. I don't see any changes on the horizon no time soon. I hear children in the third grade, they're taking these tests, and they're not reading. They're not reading in first and second grade, and go on to third grade. And what communities are those children in? Are they uh, in certain areas where they're not reading? And why are they not reading in kindergarten? Uh, are there no numbers up on the? I don't know if they have blackboards anymore. Are there no colors up uh, in the second grade? Or is there not words that they're practicing or saying the word? I just don't know what's going on with our children in the third grade.
well, it starts from preschool. It starts from preschool to the kindergarten. But my concern, just like yours, Candy, is that the ones that are missing the mark, the ones that are not reading, the ones that are not prepared are underserved and underrepresented children. Those are the ones that don't seem to be um, receiving the supports, the nurturing that they need in the school. Like I mentioned before, you know, we could talk about parents all day long. My mom only had a third grade education. I get it. But we send them to school for a reason. We send them to school to get that education. So there can be no excuse. I don't care how many times you send them. You could tell me all day long, oh, what about the parents? What about the grandparents? You could tell me that all day long. And I'll respond to you the same way. My mom had a third grade education, but I learned in school.
I learned
You
in
know,
school as well. And my mom, the majority of the time, worked from 3 to 11. So when I come home, my mom was at work. And
mhm.
my grandmother did not have any education at all. She didn't even know how to sign her name. She was, back then, they were writing X's.
X, yeah. Mhm.
So we came home and I had to figure out how to do my homework because my mother was working 3 to 11 shift. And my grandmother couldn't help us. My grandmother couldn't even dial a phone because she didn't know the numbers. So we would write it down, her friends' numbers, and work the phone for her. So it wasn't a whole lot of smartness around either, but I had a support system. Miss
There you go.
Freeney in high school, that everyone loved Miss Freeney, even Coach Washington,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
embraced so many children
Yeah.
at King
Mhm.
and made us feel proud to be there. And if we had an issue, if we had problems, we had resources and our teachers to talk with them.
That right there.
Yeah.
That right there, Candy. That right there. You know, broken people can't fix broken people.
Mm. Broken people cannot fix broken people. Yes, absolutely, Karen. We're gonna see if we have to make a call. This has been great information. I hope it brings some clarity, some understanding, definitely for our Black and Brown children, our Black and Brown families. Um, we have to continue, if you know how, to love on one another, to reach out to our parents in our neighborhoods. If you have single moms or just single, not single, but young moms and dads that we can reach out to and give support. You know, Karen, you did touch on something that I wanted to mention. You know, we have a number of churches in our community that get resources for preschool, early learning, I think is what it's called. And it's been going on for years in the community, years. The funding that is poured into early learning. And I often talk with my friends about those funds at different, maybe churches or other entities that receive it. Are they preparing the children? Are they preparing the children for first kindergarten and first grade? Yep. It's always been a question. Hold on one second. We do have a caller. Hey, Robin, how you doing?
I'm good. Oh, you answered. Hey.
Yeah, you have a call. You have a question for Karen?
Yes.
Okay, you're on.
Oh, okay. Hi, Karen.
Hey, you. How are you?
Doing well.
Mhm.
So, as board chair, I think I put this in the text in the chat. But as board chair, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment, and how has it impacted the school system? And the second question I have is, in regards to the suspension workshop, is it public? And if it is, when and what time? Thank you.
Okay. It is November. I looked through my calendar, but as board chair, my greatest accomplishment, I got to tell you, is with ESC. I was able to get the policy pushed through for ESC. ESC is our special needs children. They're children with autism and other special needs. They're learning issues. So what was going on is that they were needing to get therapists, ABA therapists into the classroom, you know, with the students to provide supports. That my first meeting that I put together for ESC had 5 parents in it. That group has grown to over 1,700 parents. And then also they've pulled over from Pasco, Polk, and Pinellas. Now they have groups all through those counties, but that group has grown, and they come to the board meeting. They advocate for themselves. Now they really really push for the IEPs for their students, the 504s for their students, something that I really, really encourage any parent who sees that their child is falling behind to advocate, because the child will get additional funding, for their child, and the child gets additional time to take tests, and other supports in the classroom for their learning. So if a parent sees that their child is falling behind, to really advocate for their child. But if they need help with that, please do not hesitate to call me directly, and I will help guide. But that workshop, let me get that workshop for you, is going to be November. And yes, you could come. It's public. And they pushed it all the way to the very last meeting that I had as chair. I'm gonna tell you, they were tell you. They were really fighting this one too. They're like, this is not gonna happen. Let me see.
It's going to be in November, Karen.
Yeah, it's the last workshop meeting in November. I'm gonna have to get it to you because my calendar is not updated. But it's the last workshop in November. But I'll get it to you, Candy, and you could put it out there.
Okay, sounds good. I would definitely get it to the community, and definitely to Robin Lockett that called in and asked that question.
But one of the things that I'm really proud, aside from being board chair, is that I've been able to really sound the signal about mental health. Anytime somebody talks about mental health, they're like, "Oh, that's board member Karen Perez." It's always been a passion of mine. Will continue to be a passion of mine, because mental health is not going to go away right now. And I'm excited when somebody talks about their story, when somebody really it discloses that they've had an issue with mental health. We just had a police officer commit suicide just before Labor Day weekend, and mental health is real. Mental health, it touches all families. So if you don't want to have a conversation with anyone, call me. I'm here. Call and talk to somebody. But just understand that somebody's there to listen.
Yeah. Aaron, if someone wants to get in contact with you, will you give out your number, please?
Yes. 813-493-7705. Again, 813-493-7705. And I'll always answer.
Yeah, always. Any last comment? Great conversation. I know I will be looking back at the conversation and sharing it with my grandson, mom, and a couple of my other friends as well. And I just hope everyone is listening and wanting to make our community better and our children. Let me see if we have any more comments. Does look like we have a few more comments.
I do want to say something to the community out there. Watch your child's body language. Watch your child's body language. Normally, if your child's body language changes, it's because something has happened. Whether they're getting bullied in school, whether a teacher has said something to them, body language says a lot. And if your child says something happened in school, parents, do me a favor. don't start with the sentence, "What did you do?" Always say, "What happened?" Because when we as parents start with, "What did you do?" the child is already going to say, "Okay, I'm going to get blamed anyway, so I'm not even going to say anything." There are adult bullies out there that bully our children. There's a lot of
Mm,
adults that have not dealt with their own mental health, and they
that's
take it
right.
out on our babies. And there's
That's
a lot of adults out there that don't look like you or me, and they will take it out on someone of a different color,
yeah,
and they don't care how old they are, but they will receive the brunt of what they feel.
yeah. And in the midst of that, and I say it all the time, and they will break our children's spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, break our babies' spirits. And they're children, and they cannot defend themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does April Cobb says?
What mental health resources is the district offering to students and their parents with fidelity to address adverse childhood experiences? Well, we have, a couple of resources. I didn't. I'll get that. I'll get that to because there's some that I pick and choose. I don't subscribe to all of them, April. To be honest with you, there's some that I'm like, like I mentioned, they'll come and
Mm,
they'll provide a resource, and then it's to an agency like Northside now is Baycare. I am a provider for Baycare, um, and I'm a provider for Baycare because I believe in Baycare. So Baycare is awesome. They took over Northside Mental Health, and now it's under the umbrella of Baycare. Northside Mental Health is right next to the VA on Bruce B. Downs. So they are amazing. I used to work for Northside. Actually, for about 6 years, I worked for them until I went over the fence over there, right next door over to the VA. So,
yeah.
but
I, we lost her again. I think she gave some great information. If she jumps back on, we only have about 5 minutes anyway. Thank you everyone for jumping on. Great conversation. Amazing comments. She did give her number out. I'm going to go back in and put it in the chat as well. So if anyone needs to get in touch with Karen Perez, she's our Hillsborough County School Board Chair, and she's also a mental health specialist social worker. And she does also can work with in private practices. I've worked with her years ago when I was at the hospital. I would call and get information about mental health for patients. I think we have her.
there we
That's, that's okay. We only have a few more minutes. Karen, if you have any last great things that you want to share with us, um, great conversation, wonderful comments and questions from everyone tonight, and everyone jumped on. I just knew we were going to have a great conversation.
I was trying to do a mental health tour, again this year. I'm still working on that. But thank you so much, Candy. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. This, came at a great time and a great space with a great person. Thank you so much for hosting this. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I almost can see at the convention center a huge mental health awareness for our children and families, um, presented by, put on by none other than Karen Perez. I'm just saying.
We'll talk.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I
can
can
talk.
see it because we need it. It's a lot going on. And thank you so much, Karen, for jumping on with us this evening. We'll see everyone here next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. same time, same tea and conversation, and also tea and conversation in person is every second and fourth Saturday of the month. And thank you, Karen, for coming every now and then and giving us an update of what's going on at Tea and Conversation. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.